I hope you took everything important off the back of your pictures.
Okay, we're good to go.
Excellent. Okay, so with that being said, then I'm going to call the July 28th Parks and Recreation Committee meeting to order. By my count, we have quorum. And so the first item, though, is to look at the agenda. Does anybody have any questions there? No, we're good. Okay. What I would like to do, and I request that we actually move from new business 4B, the introduction of our new members, just to the top of the agenda. So we all know who we're talking to. So Lloyd, could you move that?
Can I do what?
I just need you to move an amendment to the agenda that moves the introduction of our new members to the top.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Bob, you don't get to vote.
Am I just a guest?
Yeah, you're just a guest. I don't get to vote either, so. Okay, so we've adopted the agenda. Moving on to the, we've adopted the agenda. Could have a quick scan of the previous minutes. If anybody has any questions from there?
Nope.
We're good? Okay, I'll just keep on keeping on. Jim, then, do you want to move the adoption of the previous minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll adopt to move the previous minutes.
Okay, all in favor? Excellent. So how voting is working in the Zoom world? I mean, I'll call for the votes, but mostly if you're against it, really let me know. Okay, so we started our meeting. You may have noticed we have 3 new faces joining our committee. So last council meeting, council approved the appointment of 2 new members to our committee. So welcoming Neil McNeil and Leah Weens, and then also Alexander Niznik. I'm probably saying it wrong. So council had appointed 2 of the members. This is such a great committee that we had actually, I think, the largest applicants that the municipality's seen for a while. We had 10 members, so it was kind of 2 afternoons of doing interviews. We had a lot of good people, a lot of backgrounds of people that wanted to be involved and make a difference. So it was a tough choice, but we got there. So Leah and Neil are now voting members, and I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves here in a minute. But Alexander had also applied. He's a university student, lives in Cochrane, and had a strong interest in urban planning. And I really felt that anybody that wanted to, that actually said, I'm interested in municipal government, should have a spot at the table to kind of get some experience to that. So I've invited Alexander to sit with us in our meeting. He's a non-voting member, but we'll make sure he's involved and has a voice. So that'll be a valuable experience, hopefully for Alex, and a benefit to the community overall. So we have extra non-voting members. So that's our new committee moving ahead. With that, though, then I'm going to allow each of the 3 to just quickly introduce yourselves. Kind of your name, maybe why you want to join the committee and what you want to bring to it. And ladies first, so we'll start with Leah. And just hit your unmute button and I'll mute off.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and yeah, I feel very privileged to have been selected. So as Tara said, my name is Leah Weens. I've lived in Cochrane since 2002 to early 2003. So seen a fair bit of changes and growth, still love it here very much. And my whole career has been around fitness, physical activity, moving into physical literacy and recreation. And so I have all of this, I guess, great knowledge and experience and passion around the value of, recreation for the community. And so the more I talked to Tara and heard about this committee, the more I was like, you know what, I should really get involved in my own community and share some of what I have to offer and also learn a bit more about my community. So yeah, so that's why I wanted to be involved, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Welcome, Leah.
Yes, welcome. Neil, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me all right?
We're good.
Great. Neil McNeil, I consider myself a Cochranite. I've got about 43 years of experience in engineering and construction and planning. And I had 5 years on the Parks and Recreation Board in the city of Spruce Grove, as well as 5 years as on the Development Appeal Board in the city of Spruce Grove some years back. I learned a lot through that process and enjoyed my time with developing processes, plans, and just general planning for communities or that community that I lived in. And as I had not been in a volunteer position in quite some time, I thought, as I love this community dearly, it would be high time to put some time in and volunteer my experience and my time into helping Cochrane become even a better community than it currently is.
Thanks, Neil. I'm looking forward to having you on the
Thank you.
committee. Alex, over to you. And let me know if you want to be called Alexander or Alex. I don't think I got that straight in our last conversation.
Oh, Alex is fine. So my name is Alex Nisnik. I've been in Cochrane since 2012, so not too long, but long enough to see a lot of growth. I'm an urban studies major at the University of Calgary. I have been doing it, I'm entering my 5th and final year of it. And in that program, we kind of study cities, kind of growth and planning. And I have an interest of eventually, when I finally graduate, of becoming a city planner somewhere. And through school, I learned lots about Calgary and how Calgary's changed and everything else, but thought it'd be really cool to actually participate in the town in which I actually live. I'm quite an outdoorsy person as well. I love cycling, and I cycle through all of our town's lovely pathways as much as I can. And yeah, it's good to be here.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a really good group, and we've been getting a lot done. So then moving on to item 4A, old business. Brad is going to present on the pickleball club.
Thanks, Tara. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome, Leah and Neil and Alex. Good to have you with us. I hope you are happy with us and you find what you're looking for here, and it's great to have you on board. So welcome. I'm going to talk a little. I'm the Parks and Open Spaces manager. For those that don't know, and I've been involved with this committee since we got off the ground, probably a couple of years ago now, I guess, Tara. And so some of the items that we have been working on involve the different recreation groups throughout town, which the Cochrane Pickleball Club falls into. The Cochrane Pickleball Club made a presentation to this committee in February of this year for a couple of reasons. They were providing us with some information, and they were also looking for permission to move forward with some fundraising. In order for them to do that, they need an endorsement from the town of Cochrane, from the Parks and Open Spaces section, and that says we'll work with them if they're successful to fundraise enough money to construct a court at an undisclosed location. And they have a couple ideas, and we'll know more as we move forward. The Mitford Park Master Plan is one of the items that we have on our work plan. So once we get to that next year, we'll have some better ideas. But getting back to the pickleball club, they're seeking permission to fundraise, and the town of Cochrane is behind that 100%. We always like it when a group can come to us with with an ask and with some financial backing to that ask. So unless there are any serious hesitations from the committee in regards to endorsing their fundraising efforts, the town of Cochrane is going to move forward with that and provide them with a letter of endorsement that will allow them to begin the fundraising process. Doesn't necessarily mean they have a location or they're guaranteed X amount of dollars, but they can't begin the fundraising process until they have our endorsement. So we are looking to give them that endorsement and move forward with that project. So that's kind of that one in a nutshell. And if there are any questions around that, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Brad, I think you mentioned it. Absolutely. Think it's great that they've got that initiative of fundraising themselves. But as you clearly said, it's for the fundraising and not selecting a venue as such. It's just the fundraising part of it. So I think it's a great initiative.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, and to confirm it's just to allow them to begin the process of fundraising. There's no other commitment at this point.
Brad, have they set a fundraising goal, or what are they talking about financially?
They're a group of big thinkers. They didn't give me a number, but they are hoping to construct a 24 court facility. So at least $1 million required to do that. So I think they'll probably shoot for $1 million and see what they can come up with.
Okay. Any questions from the group on that then?
Well, you had to be there to see their presentation. It was really done well. And obviously, Brad can allude to that, the go ahead is there for them, and all the best to them.
If anybody wants that presentation, I can re-email it out. I still have it.
Yeah, Deanna, if you could, as a refresher for those of us that have been on, but for our new members, just to kind of get a scope as we're moving ahead. The pickleball group are very strong advocates for their cause, and and it's a good presentation. So that would be great if you could, Deanna. I appreciate it. Okay, so if there are no questions that anybody wants to drill into deeper, we just need a motion that the committee endorse endorsement to proceed with a letter. Yes, that the committee endorse the provision of a letter allowing the pickleball club to fundraise for future construction at a non-determined site. Brooke looks like she wants to make that motion.
I'm happy to endorse that, Tara.
Are you? Okay. We'll let Jim. So Jim's made that motion. All in favor? That looks like it's approved unanimously. So in the interest of moving meetings along, I just regularly assign somebody to make a motion, but if anybody ever has anything they want to champion, just let me know. Okay, so thank you for that. Moving on to the Parks bylaw update with Mr. Bob Hope. That just makes me laugh. Sorry, Bob.
That's okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I suppose I'm Bob Hope. I'm Peace Officer with Cochrane Municipal Enforcement, also the Development Compliance Officer. Brad asked me to look at the Parks bylaw. The current one is outdated in lots of areas and has conflicts with some other bylaws as well. So we took out the conflicts. We took out some other stuff like garbage within parks and encompassed that within a new bylaw, which is the community standards, which is hopefully where the Parks bylaw will sit as well. The community bylaw basically brings a lot of the bylaws together in one area. So rather than having the garbage littering offences just in a Parks bylaw, it should class for the whole of Cochrane. So we put that in the community standards bylaw under a separate heading. Apart from that, that's it really. We've updated the fines to better encompass the economy as it stands today, as opposed to when it was originally wrote. So the fines will be going up, but they're still quite of a quite reasonable if you look at some of the other bylaws. So I can certainly take any questions if anybody's got any. And then certainly any points, if anybody's got any ideas that they think we could add or add to the bylaw, now's the time. It hasn't gone any further than really my desk at the moment. It'll go from me, and certainly Brad and Angie have had a massive input, of course. But when the community standards be ready to be written, it's got to go out to managers for review first. So we're very, very early stages.
Bob, was Dawn Thorne, was she involved in this too?
Was who, sorry?
Dawn Thorne? She was the initial person looking after the bylaw upgrades, I believe, and I just wonder if he was consulted on this too.
So the main people I consulted with was Brad and Angie. Angie did put it out to the whole park section as well to see whether they came back with some good input as well. And that's basically it for parks.
I can speak to that a little bit, Bob and Lloyd. Good question, Lloyd. We had put the bylaw out to the committee for yourself and Don and Kelly, and we took that input and we incorporated it into our input. Angie was given input from the committee, the Parks and Rec committee. She also took input from our team, and she compiled that into a document that she then passed on to Bob as the municipal enforcement officer. So yes, our input was considered.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks for that, Brad.
I wonder, Brad, in the process, would we want that to loop back to the committee for a review if the timing works for September, or is that outside of your timing? Just so that the committee can have a look and see how the efforts had fed in.
I think the process is going to take a little bit longer than we originally anticipated. We'd be pushing it for September. We could have, we could bring you up to speed as to where we are in September, but I don't think the draft will be ready for September.
Okay. Don, what do you think about that? You kind of led this work. At what point would you like to see it again?
I don't believe Dawn, is she online here with us?
We'll just check. Okay. But yeah, I think overall though, we can let staff continue to kind of migrate the parks bylaw update. And when you get it to maybe that final draft, if the committee could see it for kind of a final review before it comes to council, I think would probably honor the process best.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, based on your timeline, and if it's October, November, that's fine. We can easily add it, to our agenda. So, perfect. Any other questions around that one, or to Bob generally about parks enforcement questions?
I have a question regarding, Bob, you had mentioned that there's going to be an increase in the fines for littering in the parks, and do you happen to have a number of what that might be looking like at this moment?
So it's not the fines for littering. We're taking littering out of the parks bylaw. It's the only place we have a littering offence at the moment is actually in the parks bylaw. So if you actually litter in the town of Cochrane, there's not a lot we can do about it unless it's in a park or open space.
Oh.
Very bizarre, to be honest. But we're taking it out and making the whole of town of Cochrane a place you can't litter. So that's a separate offence. The actual fines within the parks bylaw are very outdated and very low, incidentally. So say for argument's sake, there's the $50 seems to be that the general offence penalty. $50 doesn't even cover the admin, if you like, of a bank. And it shouldn't, we don't want to penalise people, but we want to make it so that it's enough of a deterrent to prevent people doing whatever it is they're doing. And bear in mind we're a compliance-based enforcement unit here. We don't seek to fine people just because. We seek for compliance first. We seek to educate people, and it's only when all that fails that we revert to fines. And the $50 fine, I've actually said people have said to me, I'll take the fine, because that's not enough to worry about.
Yeah, not a surprise. You know, about 3 weeks ago, I frequent the parks, usually walking with my dog, and about 3 weeks ago, I was just exiting with my vehicle and happened to witness a couple of young folks, young men, take what looked like a kitchen catcher garbage bag full and literally huck it right into the middle of the park from where they were parked. I stopped my vehicle and rolled down my window and grabbed my cell phone as though I was going to take a picture. And they immediately jumped over the barrier, retrieved their garbage and put it back in their car. I thought to myself, you know, people do what people do, but my goodness. I was just glad that I was there to witness it and have them actually look at me and say, oops, I think somebody's going to rat on us. But I didn't get much more information than what I gave you right now. But yeah, $50 is way too low, way too low.
Yeah.
Not much of a deterrent.
So the sort of things that we've included are things like the use of drones. Drones was never in the old bylaw, of course, because they probably weren't invented back then. Scooters, electronic scooters within the park. You know, at the moment we treat it like a vehicle. I'm not convinced that was the best way forward. There's at least one disabled person that can only use a scooter within the park system. He can't use an electronic bike, and it seemed like we were penalising scooter use when they're just as safe as a cycle. So we tend to use the safety precautions we have for bicycles the same as scooters. So.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, is there like a timeline to review the bylaws, or was there a certain need that prompted the review?
Well, the need is we have several bylaws that are outdated. We also needed or wanted to have a community standards bylaw. It's so that things like noise, nuisance, unsightly, all these bylaws come together in one bylaw to enable people in Cochrane to go to a one-place shop instead of having to go to several different bylaws to look it up. Generally speaking, enforcement for all the bylaws is pretty much the same, or should be. Unfortunately, the way ours have been written over different periods of time, even that changes slightly per bylaw. So it's to bring them all together to make them the community easier to access, make the enforcement more standard, and to update them all, of course.
Great, thank you. And so your name really is Bob Hope then? That wasn't just a name you typed in there as a joke?
There we go.
I was scouring the agenda. I'm like, I didn't see Bob Hope on the agenda. Okay.
I'll tell you a joke, but it wouldn't be very good.
Hey, Bob.
That's two of us now, Leah.
What's that?
Okay, that's two of us now. I picked on him right off the bat.
All
Bob,
right. So,
so Bob, I'd just like to say, as a fellow Brit, thanks very much, mate, for all the work you're doing. It's a lot of work went into the sort of bylaw when we sort of first seen it, and the committee have been heavily involved. And it's glad you've got your sort of hands on it and put it into some shape. So thanks for all your work, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks. Thank you.
I do really like too having one document for the bylaws and not having two separate ones. Like you say, there's one source to go to, and that way it's not that confusing. So thanks for that.
yeah, so just the history on this, I think it was Brad was the one who identified that this bylaw need to be updated from his perspective. And so then the committee added it to our work plan, and we broke off into a subcommittee of 3, went through, reviewed, presented to the group, and then Brad advanced that into the process. So it's part of what we want to do is make sure that this group reflects kind of the public voice in how we create our bylaws. So, anyway, it was a good first step. We've done a lot with this group. And then Bob's position, that was, Bob, how long have you been with us? 3 years?
That'll be 2 years in August. It just seems like 2 years.
Right. So Bob's position was part of the assignment is kind of to enforce some of the requirements put on the builders and developers, because we'd actually reached a point when a builder actually built the wrong type of house, and there was really nothing we could do. But yeah, so, and there's other things, that would be the extreme case of things not going in line. But part of the role that we hired Bob for was to enforce a lot of these parameters that we're requiring from our builders and developers here in Cochrane, and making sure that things happen according to what the people of Cochrane want to have happen, which isn't necessarily always in alignment with what the builders or developers might think is best from their perspective. So certainly kept him busy. It's always good to have somebody in that role to, when we get calls from constituents, that we can have those things enforced. So certainly, Bob, thank you for all your good work so far. I haven't heard of a house being built wrong since.
That's good.
Right?
Yes.
Knock on wood. Excellent. So we should probably then, if we don't have any other questions, there should probably be a motion to accept the parks bylaw update. Brooke is totally making that motion. I saw Brooke do that. So all in favor? All right, passed unanimously. So then moving on to item 4B, the L, regional trail update. So just a quick verbal update from me on that. Drew, I think is our CAO, had mentioned in our last meeting, was reaching out, was going to connect us to Rocky County and with their open space plans. So that's kind of in the works, but there's a lot of trail advocates out there. And of course, one of them is our local Rotary group. So I had a conversation with Alex Baum, one of our community leaders of Cochrane Toyota, and a big leader in the Rotary group. And so Cochrane Rotary, the Banff Canmore Rotarians, and one of the leading Rotary groups out of Calgary have started to come together and to advocate for the completion of the Trans-Canada Trail. So they're starting to marshal a strategy and support to build that trail, get it completed from the Glenbow Ranch, from Calgary through the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park to connect into Cochrane. And then from there, connect, the current vision is 1A through the Stoney Nakoda Nation and to connect to the Banff Canmore Trail. So that is the vision that the Rotary clubs of Banff Canmore, Cochrane, and one of the leading clubs in Calgary is currently advocating to do. So they're moving ahead with some significant meetings, and I will keep you updated. Hopefully there'll be a point when our committee can engage with that. But it's pretty exciting to see the work and a lot of the conversations they're having around that. So if anybody has any questions about regional trails, I'll answer as I can, but that's kind of the high level of what I know on that.
Quick question about funding. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And just wondering, how would we share the funding with, say, Rocky View County or Calgary or any of the other municipalities along the way?
Yeah, and that's the big question, aside from permission to access, is who pays. It's a significant project, and I can't quote the numbers to you. I only heard them verbally, and if I say the wrong thing, I'll get tracked down later. But it is a lot of miles of trails to be built. Involves railway crossings. The major one in our back door, of course, would be doing a pedestrian bridge from the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park to Cochrane South Bank, where in the visual, if you're thinking where the gravel pit is across on the south side of the river. It would connect there. And it's been identified in our open space, Cochrane's open space master plan. The connection would be part of the Southwell development, which is on the books, but hasn't really advanced just yet. But a significant amount of money. The federal government and the provincial government would have to be players for this to advance.
Okay, thank you.
Tara, just a quick question. The actual trails, we are looking at connecting them, not extending them. Is that correct? So there are sort of breakages within the sort of Trans-Canada Trail. I don't know what the Kananaskis Banff Legacy Trail, I don't know if that's part of the Great Canada Trail, but are they connecting or are we expanding them trails?
This project would be more about filling in the gap,
Yeah.
I think, on the Trans-Canada Trail. It does officially on the Trans-Canada maps, there's 2 designated connections kind of coming through Cochrane, one through Glen Eagles, and the second one would be on the south through the valley bottom, which would involve that river crossing. From the Trans-Canada Trail maps, I think Alberta actually has the most amount of kind of identified mileage of trail, because when it comes from Saskatchewan, it kind of gets to Calgary, and then like part of it splits and heads north, and then part of it hits to BC. So I haven't looked at the maps for a while, but you know, it's certainly a transformative dream. Going to be an amazing thing for Cochrane. I think the vision really is that Cochrane would be the hub of this connection. And I mean, Cochrane's passionate about our trails, but it could be a real economic driver, and I think really contribute to people's quality of life. So an exciting project. In the details, that's all I know at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Tara.
Okay, so there we can have a vote to accept my verbal update. And Lloyd made that motion.
I will accept that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous again, great. And then on to the next item, M. Lloyd, you wanted to bring up a conversation about the upgrade of Big Hill Springs Creek Trail. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, I would. The Cochrane Men's Walking Group, we use all the trails in this town on a weekly basis, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We walk for an hour, then we go for coffee somewhere, but we utilize every trail. And the only trail that I see that could use some help is that particular one, the Big Hill Springs Creek Trail up to the middle of town, right from the Bull River, all the way up to the ranch house. And the reason being is that in places it's still a single file trail. With quite a bit of shale is on there, although getting worn out. There are some portions that are paved. But the reason why I'm pursuing this is because we walk in the mid of winter too. And a lot of the trails that are out there that are paved, they're maintained year round, and that includes snow removal. And we'd like to see something like that happen or upgrade the Big Hill Springs Creek Trail. So that's where I'm at with that.
I'll turn it over to Brad to answer that as he can.
Thanks, Lloyd. Yeah, that really is our last section of shale pathway through town. We have a couple areas where there's granular pathway, but that chunk going up through Glenbow Park there is our last little bit of shale pathway. We've been reluctant to pave it because there was some, in the past, there's been some interest from running groups as to leaving it as red shale. That's a couple of years ago. I don't know if that would still hold true. So it's definitely worth exploring, and it certainly fits into the idea of connectivity.
Don't get me wrong now, the pave that aspect, the only reason I'm pursuing that is because once it's paved, it's maintained like year round. Now, if you maintain the shale pathway, then we're good to go with that.
Yeah, it's a little trickier to plow a shale pathway. You end up tearing up the pathway. just through the operations procedure, a shale pathway or a granular pathway, as soon as you put a blade on it, at some point you're going to dig into the pathway itself and do some excavating unintentionally.
Yes, I understand that, and but hence, like I say, the paved aspect is only for the maintenance aspect of it, and that's what we'd like to see. And if everybody on this screen here I see in front of me has ever done that trail, it's awesome, all the way up to 4th Avenue up on top of the hill there, if you want to bring that into play too. But no, it's a great pathway.
Lloyd, I just like to add one. I'm actually a big advocate of that pathway, especially it goes through Glenbow. I think it's fantastic. What I did notice this year, and I'm sure Brad is fully aware of it, is the flooding that happens up by Alliance Church, going underneath the bridge up into, up into the ranch house. That's a significant. Last year was a significant sort of flood. So you sometimes wonder if it's the right path going through there. I don't know if that flood happens all the time, but I'm with you. I think it's a fantastic pathway. And I think by the terms of the weather, if it's winter, like you say, it was quite bad in terms of the ice. But when it floods as well, it can be sort of put out. So but I agree. I think it's a great pathway.
Thank you for that.
So Brad, is any significant work on that trail part of your 3-year plan at this point?
We haven't identified that one at this point as a candidate for asphalt, but it's something we can certainly talk about on the committee here as a connectivity issue. We are going into the budget planning. We've got some West Terrace pathway identified for upgrade, and we've got some I think Glen Eagles within the next 5 years or so is identified for an upgrade. But we can always open it up for discussion, and if the committee feels that the community would be better served by having asphalt pathway through there, it's easy enough to put forward as a capital project.
So then Brad, because this committee, we're going to review your capital projects again as part of the budget process. Is the thought right now that we could look at all those projects and kind of see how we could reprioritize them, or what are your thoughts around that?
Well, a lot of them have got a couple of years work put into them, so I wouldn't want to say we're going to reprioritize the 3-year budget. Certainly open to suggestions around additions to like a project like this is a great suggestion. And if like I said, the reason we left it asphalt was because we felt that better served the community at the time. If that's no longer the case, then we can certainly put it forward in the 3-year plan. There's room to put it in there. Whether it gets approved or not is not up to me, but I can certainly put it in there.
All right, so what does the group think? I don't think anybody here is part of the running club, but I do, at one time it was called the Red Rock Runners. So it was a big part of their identity. If anybody's connected to the runners better than I am, any thoughts on how to proceed with that?
I'm not part of the running club, Tara, but I do run those routes. I have to agree, the red asphalt, does have its limitations, both summer and winter. I don't know what the other priorities are, so I don't know what sort of Glen Eagles or West Terrace, what the other ones are. So, but just from and I think this is where I agree with Lloyd, just from the condition of that sort of route that goes right through the middle of town, which is quite a good thoroughfare. I would certainly definitely sort of support a push on sort of getting that as a priority. So, but I've run it a number of times, and asphalt is, like Brad would know as well, when it gets wet, it gets uneven. So it is what it is. But
so if the question is to pave or not to pave, you'd be in favor of Jim, but any thoughts from the rest of the group on, like I said, part of the holdup on that has always been a portion of the community liked it not paved. So that's kind of, I'd like to hear some thoughts around around moving it from a non-paved to a paved. Any thoughts on that?
Is there any thought on like kind of a multi-use function where you could sort of pave most of it, but leave a part that's still asphalt, or like enough room that you could run beside it or something? Right, because if you're thinking about, there's certain sections you were saying, I think it was Jim, that like almost need to be widened, so there'd be a bit of maintenance that would go into that. So where a runner doesn't take up that much space, you could pave most of it and then leave like a shoulder almost. Just a thought. Because I do see the pros and cons of both, and sometimes asphalt can be really slippery right after it's been plowed as well, or shoveled, right? So sometimes it's more dangerous temporarily anyways. So that's a tricky one.
Yes, Leon, that's certainly the case too. Like the safe pathways, even like you say, when they get cleaned off or brushed off, and there's a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of a melt, it becomes a dangerous situation too. And here again, I'm not completely in favor of paving the pathway. I'm only looking at the maintenance of the pathway to make it safer for the guys in the wintertime or anybody that uses it.
So what would maintenance look like then if it wasn't paved?
I guess we'd have to ask Brad on that one.
And shovel.
Yeah, really, where we're at now, in the winter, we have 80 kilometers of pathway that we're maintaining. So we have 80 kilometers of asphalt pathway. We have 7 full-time operators taking care of that. They go out in the snow. We have 5 or 6 sets of stairs, and then we have 7 or 8 municipal parking lots that we also take care of. So when it snows, there's not a lot of time there's no such thing as enhanced snow maintenance in the town of Cochrane. It's done by a small tractor and a plow, or a bobcat and a plow. So in order for us to maintain it in the winter, the most practical solution would be to go to the asphalt pathway. And this, like I can say, this topic's come up a couple times in the last 6 months, and outside of the committee and from different members of the community. So I think it's well worth looking at. But to go back to the maintenance question, it's plow or no maintenance. If it's not asphalt, it doesn't get maintained. That was a long-winded answer, wasn't it?
Good answer. That was a good answer, Brad. Thank you.
All right, why don't we defer this then for further discussion to the fall budget, parks budget discussions. And maybe at that point Brad will be a little bit more maybe prepared at that point, and we can have a discussion about if it's something we want to advance and how we could then maybe add it into the 3-year plan at that point. And then also, I was just thinking what engagement we should do with the runners. Any thoughts around that? Neil's just laughing at me. He's like, yeah, there is a headache coming.
Oh, no, not laughing. I agree with you. I think they should be consulted. What I'm kind of just laughing about, I guess, is the fact that it was just mentioned we have 80+ kilometers of pathway, and I'm not sure that they all need to be paved. Nobody's going to walk them in a week, and nobody's going to actually clear them in the wintertime in 1 or 2 days anyway. So yeah, it's all right. But yes, I think if there was a group that expressed significantly that they would want that shale pathway maintained as a shale pathway, I think they should be consulted before any motion is put forward to pave those.
Okay, Brad, what do you think about the best way forward?
I think it probably going to be easiest and most efficient if I reach out to the running club and just ask them what their thoughts are, and we don't have to spend a great deal of time waiting for another meeting, working around some of the other items. I'll reach out to the Red Rock Club and see what their thoughts are, and that'll take 5 minutes, I would think. So I'm okay to do that if that's the direction we're going in. I'm all good with that.
Perfect. All right, so why don't we then, have a motion to, I don't know what the proper language on it is, but just to, I think, to accept the discussion and ask for further discussion on the project to be included in the fall budget review. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along. This is making me quite happy, actually. So the meeting started at 1:30. My personal goal as the chair is that we never have a late meeting. And we're less than an hour into this, so I'm quite happy. So yeah, item 4C.
Tara,
Dawn?
can I just interrupt for a sec?
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't get who moved or made the motion on that last one.
I think it was Brooke. Who did I point at? Who wants to be pointed at?
Me in there.
Okay, Leah wants to be on there.
Lee? Leah? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So on to council priorities. You may or may not have noticed there's some discussion about mandatory masks bylaw going on in response to the COVID. Council's last meeting was officially our last meeting, but we've added a special meeting to have this discussion. I believe it's tomorrow morning. And the idea with Calgary adopting the mandatory mask bylaw that will have some sort of impact on us, and of course keeping our residents healthy and safe through this, as well as our business is important. So council is going to be having a discussion on this special meeting tomorrow morning. I believe it's at 10:30. So people can always watch that online. The agenda for that is going to be posted I think about 4:30. So you can see kind of what the conversation is around. As I understand at this point, what's being proposed is a mandatory mask bylaw for transit and public spaces, pending an increase in cases. So I think last time I checked the cases, we were at 5. Anyhow, I'll have to check it again. But what is being proposed is that if the Cochrane specific cases, as I understand it, goes above 10, then our emergency team would have the authority to then put in a mandatory mask bylaw. And then once we're recovering, and if those cases then drop below 10 for 14 days, the mandatory mask bylaw would then be lifted for public spaces and transit. So the actual language of that will be available, like I said, on the town website, I think about 4:30, and that conversation will happen tomorrow. A number of us councillors have been actively engaging, trying to get the sense of the community on that. And of course, I think, well, council's email box is fairly full with some fairly strong opinions. Nobody said I don't care, so that's good. So that's kind of the item of the day. Once we have that conversation tomorrow, then council is on summer break. My other committee work, the Economic Recovery Task Force, is also on break until the 3rd week in October, or August, sorry. But I understand the Social Recovery Task Force is still meeting. So the work of the municipality, continues in these, unique times. But if anybody has any questions around that, I can answer them as best as I can. Lloyd?
Tara, do you know the current count for the COVID cases, like say in the town itself or the county?
You know what? I looked it up this morning from the provincial website, and I think it was either 3 or 5. But what's being forecast is you know, it looks like we're getting another spike or maybe the second wave or however you want to look at it. The Calgary cases are certainly increasing, and Dr. Henshaw's report over the weekend saw a lot of cases and a number of new deaths. So things are going the wrong way right now.
Thank you for that, Tara. Thank you.
And anyone else?
I just have a question around the language of public space. Are we including just the town of Cochrane properties, or are we including like any business?
Yeah, so it would be all public spaces. So it would be anywhere where the public could go. It's pretty much, looks to me, it's like a replica of the Calgary bylaw, which has the benefit of being consistent. I mean, we're not an isolated population. You know, we go and shop in Calgary, they go and shop here. As we're trying to encourage and support our businesses, there is the drive for, you know, stay-home vacations or regional tourism. So on one hand, we are trying to drive more engagement, supporting our businesses. On the other hand, we're trying to manage this. So my read on the bylaw, and I just saw it briefly this morning, would be those public spaces. It would be transit. There would be exceptions around those who can't wear them, young people. Of course, you know, restaurants, anywhere there's a server, you wouldn't have to wear a mask. So, but it looks to me just like a replica of the Calgary model.
I think for clarification, we would need to know if it's just indoor public spaces or if it includes outdoor spaces.
Yeah, my read on it is it's indoor.
That's what I'm assuming, but that's
Yeah.
not been said yet, so.
Yeah, no, that's certainly my read on it, and I'll make sure for my own understanding that that's clear as well. It's generally to cover off where you can't keep that distance. And if we're outside recreating here in the summer, I think it's fine, but
Of
winter's
course.
gonna hit. Then we'll have to go indoors and spend time around each other. It's gonna be terrible. Because I don't ski, winter's a good thing. Anyone else? No, we're good. Okay, so that's kind of what council's doing right now. So I'll take a motion to accept the report from Councillor McFadden. And I think
move to
Neil's
accept.
totally making that motion. Are you gonna have to wait? Well, Neil totally made that motion.
So moved.
All in favor? Good, it's unanimous. Okay, and now we're moving on to administrative priorities. And this is back over to Brad.
Thanks again, Tara. Just a quick update on some of the capital projects that we're working on. The River Ave and the Crawford Ranch pathway they went out to tender. Prices came back a little bit high, so we're looking at the scope on part of that project and making some adjustments, and that work will go forward here hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Same with the Riverfront Bridge. Numbers came back way higher than we were anticipating. So we're looking at changing the scope on that project as well. Working with the consultants on that one, and probably coming to council within the next couple of weeks to ask for some additional funding for that one. So, and then the budget, the 3-year budget, we're just entering the process of that. Currently looking at user fees and cemetery fees, that kind of idea. And that process has just begun. So we're fairly new into that for this year. A lot of this year's, or not, I shouldn't say a lot. A couple of the parks projects from 2020 got pushed into 2021. So they will automatically be absorbed into the 3-year budget next year. Not automatically approved, but they were approved in 2020. That was the master plan for Midford and the master plan for the ranch. They have deferred until 2021. And sorry, just looking, I got a couple things going on here. The Horse Creek concept plan, same thing. We were supposed to look at it this year, and it's been pushed out into 2021 as well. So those items will be included in 2021 to 2023 operating / capital budget. So other than that, we're just trying to keep our staff safe. We're batting 1,000 so far. We've had a couple scares, or a couple people that were showing symptoms that were tested but tested negative. So as far as I know, the town is still COVID free. The town employee anyway. I know from the Parks and Open Spaces section, we're still batting 1,000 here. So fingers crossed, we're doing something right. And that's it. Thank you.
Good, good. Questions for Brad?
Yes, Brad, the Riverfront Bridge, where is that?
That's the one. It's a hard area to describe. If you take the riverfront pathway, you're coming out of Riverview and you go across the little bridge that will take you left into Riverfront Park or right up into Glenbow. If you go right at that bridge, there's a bridge in there that got washed out. It kind of connects Griffin Road and Riverview Drive to that pathway system through that old set of stairs. Sorry, I didn't think to put a map, and it'll take me a couple minutes to figure out how to do that on here. So
Yes, I know where you mean now. Thank you.
Yeah, that one's going to be difficult. I've certainly heard from residents that want it fixed ASAP, but that one's a difficult one. I mean, it's a beautiful area, but I think I can see why it's more expensive than we were predicting. Okay. So no further questions on that? We're good. Okay, so.
Just have one quick question for Brad. What exactly is the River Avenue pathway? Is that just connecting from just the exit Riverview to the river pathway system?
right. If you're familiar with Matt Kroll baseball diamonds, Alex, River Ave,
Do you guys want just the message in the box from 140 about the Denny's Mountain Oak?
this committee actually identified a gap in the pathway system between Riverview Drive and Dog Off Leash Park. So where there's a beaten path, or what we call a goat trail, running parallel to River Ave, connecting to the Riverview Greenbelt, we're installing a 3-meter asphalt pathway there.
Okay, I think I know what you mean. Thank you.
So I told my son that because we walked that, and he was like, well, Mom, I don't really know if that was your decision or not, but that's just stupid. We need more grass. So I get it everywhere. But yeah, anyhow, glad to see that one's coming ahead, and the Crawford Ranch one as well. Okay, so a motion to accept the update on administrative priorities. Who's behind? Dawn's turn. Okay. All in favor? It's unanimous again. Thank you, group. Okay, so 4C3 committee priorities. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that? No? Okay, good. And then the round table. I did want to add something there. So after we recruited, like I said, we had 10 members keen to join our committee, and we went through the process and council appointed it, and we set the meeting. Then Bike Cochrane reached out, and they were like, hey, we would really like to be a part of this committee. And Bike Cochrane are really effective, and I think they represent a lot of people where biking is their passion. And so they were looking for a way to have a place at the table. And so Drew and I were having a chat about whether there might be a way to do that. My concern maybe with giving them a designated spot or inviting them to the table is there's a lot of different advocate groups that we would then have to add to the table, and we might get unwieldy fairly quickly. So that was my first thought around that. So certainly I do want to engage them. One of the things I'd like to see is that, you know, Cochrane's known for our ice cream and our trails and our biking. So it's a vision I see, but I don't really want to reopen our committee functionality to enable it. What I was thinking though, looking ahead at the various different spots that I know they want to engage in or would want to engage in, so the Midford Park work, the ranch work, just to make sure that we identify them and very deliberately engage with them on those. It was kind of more about how I was thinking we could engage with them. And of course, I mean, these meetings are, they're going to be live or broadcast or whatever our word is. So they'll be able to see that just like the rest of the community. That's kind of my thoughts around how to engage with Bike Cochrane. But I wanted to get feedback from the group on your thoughts.
I think, Tara, you've handled that really well. A very diverse committee that has experience in, you know, big picture, wider areas. So I think you've handled that very well, Tara.
Anybody else have any comments?
Can you hear me now, Tara?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Yeah, I totally think what you're thinking is great. In particular, I would be very concerned about starting to recruit from every single advocacy group in town. I think that's really fair to follow engage them as we would go forward, engage any other groups. And I think in a bit it speaks to what James had brought up at the last meeting about the potential for a liaison role with these different recreational groups. So I think that's something we can put on the back burner as well.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I haven't reached out to them yet, but that was just my thoughts. Anybody? No? Okay. And then also engaging with us, I've had another group of advocates that have a particular vision for what they like to have happen on the ranch. And I've reached out, they want to book a meeting with me, as knowing that I'm the chair of this group with the ranch. So I'm going to go back to them, and what I did say in my email back to them is, of course, that this committee has been tasked with those 2 master park plans, and that any advocating for anything happening in advance of those master plans, you know, probably isn't something that where we should go, and that kind of the level of decision making is that we would do these master plans and engage with everyone, create the plans, and then it would be more appropriate for groups to then advocate for how they fit or how they fund raise into that. So I have to respond to that one as well, but there is ongoing, people love their parks and they want to engage and get out there. So those are kind of the conversations I'm having right now, but I wanted to share them with you and take advantage of the knowledge for some better advice in case I was missing a step.
So Tara, is there an ongoing like regular opportunity for groups to present? Because wasn't there a few years back where groups could come and present their needs to council? I don't know if that was the Parks and Rec committee or another one, but I was just wondering if that's something that is in the yearly or some kind of plan, or if that's something that the group would consider.
Well, we're working it out. I mean, the Parks and Recreation group formed 2 years ago, I think it is, and we are finding our ways in how to best serve an advocate and what our role is. Those delegate sessions were in particular to the Horse Creek project. And so we reached out to the community and essentially said, you know, if you see, you know, yourself on this site, please come and meet with the committee and tell us your story so that we can understand, you know, how you see yourself on the site, and then how this committee, looking at the big picture, sees you on the site. And from there, we made our recommendations to the Horse Creek plan. So I think it worked really well. I really liked that it engaged, and we really started to see a shared vision. I think we would do it again. I mean, it was such a great idea that when they did the tri-sites, they stole our delegate day idea. So, but I think as we move towards the master park plans for both the ranch and Midford, that we would deliberately do it again. I would think instead of having kind of a standing presentation every year, that we would just deliberately engage as we have relevant projects, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm seeing nods. Yeah, so that's kind of the items that I'm seeing. We were going to use the roundtable to have, so most of the members of the committee have been appointed by council as kind of individual representatives, you know, citizens of Cochrane. Then we do have a couple roles where they're appointed. So we have Fiona as the school board rep, which is important to understand how we can work with our schools. Spray Lake has a rep, and then of course the Ag Society has a rep. So usually the roundtable is a chance for those groups to kind of spend a few minutes sharing what's new in their world. But everybody's busy, I guess, so we are short on those reps today for that roundtable. But does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Just remembering we're not meeting for 2 months, so this would be your chance.
Just what you said about the what Lee was looking for, I think the delegation days we've had 2 sessions now, have we not, Tara? On the delegation day.
Yeah, we did them with Horse Creek, and then we were going to do them again as we narrowed down on it, but then I think once we kind of looked at it, we thought there was probably a duplication, and there really wasn't really any new information to gather. Is that so? I remember it rolling out.
Well, I like the idea that to go on the individual basis then where they apply, just like the pickleball group did their presentation to us in the council chambers there. And, you know, we got the whole presentation on their likes and dislikes. And I like that idea better than a delegation day.
Okay. Well, we can certainly roll with it and adjust. I think when we do have big projects, we need to deliberately engage, but I think we should always be open to those advocacy groups. I mean, the entire creation of the Parks and Recreation Committee came about because of pickleball. So,
yeah.
Pickleball makes the world go round.
I think, can I say a few words?
Yes, please, Dawn.
I think that if a group is coming forward with a specific ask, then I think it's most appropriate to have them come forward with that ask to the committee. But if a group's wanting to come forward just to share with us information about their group, I think it's much better to align them with the development of those master plans. And if by chance we end up identifying that we have a gap in terms of supporting their service delivery, then again, we can talk further with them as a result of that.
Okay, yeah, and it's something we can decide as a group.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think for me, just being on various committees and organizations and not knowing, like finding a committee like this to come to, right, sometimes takes time for new organizations. So I was just thinking if there was an opportunity once a year or every 2 years to put it out and say, you know, what are your ideas in general around, there may be things we haven't thought of that we're not even aware of, right? So if we wait for groups to come to us all the time, then I think, you know, that's going to be good, but there may be things we're missing. So yeah, I was just thinking out loud about ways to, yeah, but that's also part of our role as committee members to bring that forward too, I would imagine, right? So
yeah, I'm certainly not against it. And as the committee evolves, I mean, since the beginning, Dawn has been advocating that the committee have a stronger approach to recreation overall. A lot of our work to date has been more around capital projects and some policy work, but it is something for the committee to kind of have a chat about maybe how overall Cochrane wants to approach recreation and to kind of do that analysis. So we can certainly land there and have a discussion. right now the work, we can add it, but right now the designated work plan from council is the regional trails. We did that bylaw and the the master plans. And then we also do that sponsorship project too. So we do have a designated work plan, which we'll share with you, but I don't know, kind of the way I look at the way the committee approaches their work is we have our work plan, which we brainstorm and present to council. What we did this time is we presented a 2-year work plan. The other way we get our work is council gives us something to do, and then we do that. And then the third way we get our work is within the group. If we see a gap that we want to advance, then we can start looking at that. So yeah, just in the scope of how we're currently doing things, that's where we're at. But I think it's a fair point that we probably deliberately need to look at recreation as a whole, just not this summer.
No.
Dawn?
So yeah, if we could have a copy of that work plan. I don't think I've seen that. And then the other question I was going to ask, again, just for those of us who are new, is if it's possible to get minutes from, like, I don't know, the last 6 months or the last year, even just to flip through, because yeah, it'd be nice then to kind of understand that. That was really helpful, Tara. So just to understand sort of, yeah, the context of the group and how things are decided and move forward.
Yeah, so for Deanna, I think, can you provide the group with the updated work plan? That was,
I think so.
council directed that, should be the council minutes for January, I think. And then
Yeah.
all of our minutes are actually online. So you can review those. But anybody ever has any questions, just reach out. More than glad to clarify things.
Thanks.
Dawn?
I just want to add, I think Leah's comments about people not knowing who to contact and if they're a new group and stuff are really, really important. And Leah, just for your information, the last couple of months, and Tara alluded to the fact that I've been really pushing this whole look at recreation in Cochrane, and it's sort of the overarching holistic look. We seem to spend a lot of time looking at specific sport groups and that type of thing, which is important and good, but I think we need to take a step back. And part of what we've been talking about is just what you're speaking about in terms of what is the role of the town in terms of liaison with all of these different groups and what might that look like. But we've only just brushed the surface of that. So I'm hoping as we go forward, that'll be further of our conversation.
Great.
Also, Dawn is our vice chair. So when my Zoom fails, Dawn makes me look good.
Thank you, Tara.
Dawn makes me look good all the time. So good.
That's the plan.
Always. Yeah. Okay. So any other roundtable things we want to wrap up with?
So, Tara, I've just got one, because we're not meeting until September. Just a pre-warning, I've passed my big yellow school bus driving test, so just beware that I'm out on the road. Be careful from me.
Oh, okay. It wasn't it wasn't like I can't make your meetings. It was just no. Stay off the sidewalks, heads up.
Exactly that. Yeah, just stay away from me.
Okay. Good to know. Lloyd.
One more thing on the paved pathways. I almost got wiped out on Sunday. A fellow on a bicycle come up from behind and went by me probably about 35 to 40K coming down the hill off Midford. And I think that, yes, the paved pathways are good. Sometimes you maybe have to slow people down. The signs don't work. A speed bump, that type of thing.
So you're just going to throw yourself in front of the... Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, I've zipped down that hill myself. It's a lot of fun, and it doesn't matter how many signs you put up. People just have to be responsible for each other. So, but a fair point. Bob, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. Did you have anything you'd like to highlight to the committee or straighten us out about?
Not really. It's just thank you for having me on, if you like, and it's good to get different perspectives.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Deanne, anything from you?
Nope, just hanging out at home, waiting for hopefully my daughter's negative COVID test results. So if I can go back into the office.
Great. All right, Brad?
I'm all good. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
Last gasp. Okay, so this, after tomorrow, is my last council meeting. I think I'm getting 3 whole weeks off. So,
Yay.
yay! I'm super excited. But yeah, so any questions ever, just reach on out. I appreciate everybody's work this year. We got a little bit sidetracked with COVID. I think we'll have a busy fall. And to the new members, welcome aboard. I appreciate you contributing your time and energies. I think you'll find it's a really good group and got a lot done. So with that, happy summer, everyone. And again, always feel free to reach out. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I just get to declare it.
That's a point of order, Madam
Oh,
Chairman.
you're right. No, you're right. We did miss upcoming important dates. September 22nd, October 27th. I think that'll be right after budget. And then yes, number 6 is to adjourn. So I'm officially declaring this adjourned at 2:53, which means we're well under the 2-hour mark. So, okay, now it's happy summertime. So thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.